We have got a big election coming up on November 8th, 2016, presidential election. And so we're going to take a look at some new Excel skills with graphing and also some management of our columns and cells. And so what we are going to do is take a look at some election data for California and specifically Congressional District Number 1, which is where we live here in Modoc and Siskiyou County. But first up, the data that we are going to use comes from this location right here, which is from Alex Padilla, who is the California Secretary of State. And among the many things that the Secretary of State is in charge of in California, he's in charge of elections. As I just mentioned, we are part of Congressional District Number 1 here in California. And so here it is. Here's California, and here's Congressional District Number 1. And then way up here is Modoc County. And not easy to see on this particular map here, but Tule Lake is right in this area right here. And of course, there's the Oregon state line. So that's Congressional District 1. It's made up of several counties. So we're here in Congressional District Number 1. Let's take a quick look at who our congressman is for District 1. And his name is Doug LaMalfa. And so he is our congressman. If you have a concern about an issue, he is the gentleman you would write to take your concern back to Washington, D.C. And so at his website here, we've got a little biography, contact information, legislation, information on his voting record, various issues, his position on issues such as defense, education. Click on that. So he goes and talks about how important it is for K-12 education. I believe he talks, here he's talking about college tuition. And so if you want to express an opinion, you would write to him. You can also stay in contact with him with what's going on in Washington through a newsletter. And so you would come to contact, newsletter subscription, and why, I think I'll just go ahead and sign up right now. And he definitely wants to stay in contact with the people of Congressional District Number 1. And so I've indicated I'm very interested in health care. And so we'll see if we get some information back from Mr. LaMalfa. So next up, we'll go ahead and proceed to the worksheet. And so what we are going to do is take a look at the data for the election that took place in June, which was the primary election for both the Democratic nominees for president and also the Republican nominees. And so step number 1 for you is to enter this information for that election that took place on June 7th, 2016, first congressional district here in California. And so in that election, what we're going to do is take a look at the results for the Democratic side of the election, which the candidates were Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. And then we'll also take a look at the Republican side of that primary election, which involved Ted Cruz, John Kasich, and Donald Trump. And so I just put in those candidates who received the most votes in these particular counties. And there's the counties that make up Congressional District Number 1. Right there. And there's Modoc, and there is Siskiyou. And these are the numbers of actual votes. That's 11,766. Some of these counties you can see are very small. 65, 281 votes here in Modoc County, so not a lot of people here. And so we'll do some charting and take a look and a little analysis of this data. So first up for you to do is to go ahead and get this information into your workbook. And go ahead and start a new workbook to put this data in there, and then we'll come back and continue. First up, let's learn how to merge cells, and specifically how to merge and center a title within our worksheet. So we have this title here, 1st Congressional District, and then we have a subtitle. And so what we're going to do is combine all of these cells and then have this title right in the middle over all of our data. So here is the procedure. Starting with column F, select A through F, but I want you to do it this way. Make sure you start with F and select F through A. And then click Merge and Center. That's right here on the Home main menu. Merge and Center. And there you go. So now, notice this cell is now referred to as A1, even though it crosses over all of these other cells, all these other columns here. So it's now considered just one cell. We took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns and converted those 6 cells into one cell that has included our title right in the middle. And so we will do the same thing with the subtitle here. From F to A, merge and center. Next, we need a little more space in these columns, so let's go ahead and select, and you can do this anywhere as long as you select A through F. Once again, from the Home main menu, over to Format, Column Width, and let's go ahead and set that to 18. Next, let's select rows 4 and 5 and columns A through F from the Home main menu. Let's go ahead and center alignment, and then also center within the cell. Now, if you had something like this here that we have in D4, where Ted Cruz is stacked, first name on top of the last name, if you take a look up here in the formula bar, for some reason, on mine and perhaps on yours, probably not on yours, I imported this data, so that's probably why this happened, but I've got blank space here, like there was a bunch of spaces put in with the space bar, so I'm just going to delete that, and there we go. So that looks a little bit better. So Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are on the Democratic ticket, and they were running against one another within the primary. And this election was held to see who would be the actual Democratic nominee for president. So there's your Democratic candidates. And then on the Republican side, that's what REP stands for. We had Ted, John, and Donald. And so next up, we'll go ahead and do some charting of the information for the Democratic Party. Step number 1, we are going to do a 2-series column chart. So we'll select the data for Hillary Clinton and also for Bernie Sanders. Insert on the main menu. Insert a column chart. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so I can have a little space. Expand that. Now the first thing that we will try to do here is to change our axis so that maybe we can get a little better reading of some of these small counties, these low votes here. It's hard to determine how many votes there actually were because there's quite a difference between some of these counties, number of people, population. So what we could do is right-click on the y-axis and click Format Axis. And then we could come over here and change that to smaller number. Let's go ahead and change that to 20,000. Let's see if that helps us out. Well, it does help a little bit, but it's still difficult to read the results for this county, this one, and this one. And while we are looking at these counties, we might as well go in there and put a name to them. So let's right-click, select Data, and on the horizontal axis we need to edit that. And so we need to come over and select our counties. And we've got the same thing for Series 2. And next up will be to give Series 1 that I'm showing in blue. We need to associate that with Hillary Clinton and the orange with Bernie Sanders. So click on Series 1, click Edit, Series Name, make sure that's selected, and then just come on over and click on Hillary Clinton, click OK. There it is right there. And then Series 2, same thing, Edit, click on Bernie Sanders, click OK. And then the next thing we can do is click OK here and then come on up to our chart title. And we can click on 1st Congressional District, double click, highlight the text, Control C to copy. Click back into our chart title, highlight that, Control V as in Victor to paste. Press the space bar one time. Come back to our subtitle. Control C to copy. There's that space. Control V to paste. And I'll come right here, just right behind the C in California. And press Enter, and there is our title. So that's another way you can insert the title in there if you don't want to take the time to type that in or to use the Select Data option. So the chart at this point is useful for these counties with larger populations as far as looking at the votes for Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, but we have these little counties here which makes it a little tough to analyze, and so we would probably want to break this data down into smaller chunks. And so I can see right here that Glenn County, Modoc County, and Sierra County have the smallest population, so it would probably be a good idea to break those down into another chart. So let's go ahead and move this chart. Right click, move, and let's call this All Counties. And there it is. And as you can see, Glenn, Modoc, Sierra, tough to read. Let's go back to our worksheet and let's create a column chart with just those 3 counties. And here's how you would do that. First we have Glenn County, and so we're looking at those that are well under 1,000 votes. So for Hillary Clinton, we click on Glenn County, press the Control key, click on Modoc, and then click on Sierra. And then come over to Bernie Sanders, and there's Glenn, Modoc, and Sierra. Now let's go create that column chart for just those 3 counties. There we are. Well, let's go ahead and get our county names to replace the 1, 2, and 3. And then you can go ahead and put a chart title in there. And there are the counties. And now we'll come in and get our Hillary and Bernie information in there. And then I will save that or move it to its own sheet. And we'll give that a name. And let's call that Glenn Modoc Sierra. And there you go. So now we've got these smaller counties in a format that we can read a lot easier than having them within the all counties chart. And so if you would like, you could also go back and just create a separate chart for Butte, Nevada, and Shasta, and Siskiyou, which have the largest populations, and then maybe one in between there. You might go in and take a look at Lassen, Plumas, and Siskiyou. And so go ahead and give that a try so that when you're finished, you have 4 different charts where we've broken down Congressional District 1 based on the number of voters in those particular counties. And then when we get to the next video, we'll take a look at the Republican side of that election.